Another terrible moment from the beautiful game, and I issue a trigger warning. Edoardo Bove of Fiorentina collapsed on the pitch. Here is a fan's video.
Madonna maiala di Dio.
Well, if you were just with us moments ago, you would have seen in the 17th minute of the Fiorentina-Inter game, Edoardo Bove collapsed on the pitch. Play was immediately halted as the players from both teams called for the medics to be rushed onto the pitch. The 22-year-old midfielder was taken away in an ambulance and the match has been suspended. And you can see the panic on everybody's face at the stadium and on the pitch as well. It's a difficult situation for us to sit here and talk about, but we're just, thinking of everybody in Florence right now.
The latest reports are this. After Bove collapsed, he was placed in an ambulance and removed from the pitch. He would be transported to a hospital, and ESPN reports as well he was placed in a medically induced coma. The match would be abandoned. His club, Fiorentina, would release a statement saying the footballer, Edoardo Bove, is currently under pharmacological sedation and hospitalized in intensive care, the ICU. The first cardiological and neurological tests performed have ruled out acute damage to the central nervous system and the cardiorespiratory system, which was very good news at the time. Bove will be reevaluated in the next 24 hours. This all went down because there was a break in the action in the 16th minute when Lautaro Martinez's goal had to be reviewed by VAR. Thus, Bove, as we saw from the video, bent over, tied his boots, tied his shoelaces, positioned himself back upright, and then right after that took a step or two, stumbled, and then collapsed. And players from both clubs immediately rushed toward him. After they did, they signaled to the medical staff to hurry, because every second in these moments, as we have seen from players in the past, are precious. The medical staff rushes over. Players have their hands on their heads. It is depressing. It is depressing seeing this once again. Bove would be admitted to the ICU, but as of Monday morning, in more good news, he woke up. Even speaking with his family, staff from the club, and even some of his Fiorentina teammates. The club released this statement. Fiorentina reports that Edoardo Bove, after spending a peaceful night, was woken up and extubated, had a tube removed this morning. He is currently awake and alert. He spoke with his family, Fiorentina management, the coach, and his teammates, who rushed to see him as soon as they received the good news. Further examinations will be carried out in the coming days to determine the causes of the critical situation that occurred yesterday. The doctors treating the player confirmed that diagnostic investigations are continuing. Inter chairman Giuseppe Marat would say, football is a community. So naturally, when these situations happen, all the players and the referee work together to help. And it was a spontaneous decision to abandon the game, obviously, as they should. And I'm glad that they agreed to it. Gab Marcotti, the NFL could take note with Damar Hamlin. Gab Marcotti of ESPN quote tweeted a report from Sky Sport Italia indicating Bove was breathing on his own and his heart is beating on his own. He's at the hospital. The game has been abandoned and will be rescheduled. From The Athletic, a bit of background. Bove has played in 11 Serie A games for Fiorentina since joining them on loan from Roma in August. The Italy Youth International came through the ranks at Club Roma and has made 92 appearances for them. The BBC has more. He joined Roma with a view to make the deal permanent with Fiorentina. His first goal came in October, and he's played for his country all the way up to the U21s. He's yet to make and log a cap for the national team. Speaking of Roma, unfortunately, there was another player who collapsed. That was defender Evan Ndika, who is reportedly being pursued by the likes of Real Madrid. He collapsed in a match back in April. That match would also be suspended. He fell backwards onto the pitch around the 18th minute mark. He was conscious, but he was in clear pain as he was rubbing his chest. He too would be taken to the hospital. Thankfully, he would be discharged a day later. Sempre Inter also wrote for Fiorentina. This did also occur in 1981 with Giancarlo Antononi losing consciousness after a collision. His pulse actually stopped, they report. 2 days later, he regained consciousness from a coma. So we have covered this a few different times now. We covered this with Edoardo Bove. We have seen Evan Ndika. Most notably during the Euros, we saw Christian Eriksen collapse, and his Denmark teammates were stunned. The doctors even gave reports on how they tended to him, and many thought the worst. Thankfully, he has made a comeback, and he is still playing high-level football in Europe. But then there was also the Tottenham connection there between Christian Eriksen and did he hang on a minute. I might actually I want to make sure here before I say this. I believe that's incorrect. I believe it was Bolton. Yeah, it was Bolton. They just have the same colors. So scratch that. I remember many years ago, and for those of you that have been around, it was a segment called TYT Sports Locked Out when we were shooting in segments in California, and we did not have access to the studio, so we just recorded on the roof. And I remember seeing Fabrice Muamba collapsed on the pitch. That match was abandoned as well. Thankfully, he was okay, though it took time. We don't know why this happens until we hear from the medical experts in their respective fields, right? We cannot rush. And unfortunately, with the times that we are living in and how polarizing they are, I fear that one side is going to do it. And it is the side that is led by John Stockton, of all people, the NBA Hall of Famer, and Michelle Tafoya, who left her job with NBC, the number 1 or 2 job in the country, working sideline on Sunday Night Football. Maybe it's number 2 to Monday Night Football. And how they promote the, what's the word? How they promote sports from an anti-vax stance. And I truly do fear this, considering what we have seen with Amani Khalif and how a lie will spread like wildfire, because that is what Elon Musk wants on his platform. And it's why many have departed the platform as well. So what I am hoping for is that we don't rush to judgment. What I'm hoping for is that we hear from the medical experts instead of hearing from the likes of Aaron Rodgers on the subject, or John Stockton, or those in his orbit. I wish Edoardo Bove the absolute best. I wish him a speedy recovery, and I wish the best for his club, Fiorentina. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.